Get ready, bag makers, because today we are making the KiKi Crossbody. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Melissa and I am with Sew Yours. If you're brand new here, I design sewing patterns for bag making. I also offer hardware, zippers, sewing notions, acrylic templates, and much more, all for bag making on my website at sewyours.com. I have done a separate introductory video on all of the features that the KiKi Crossbody has to offer, the hardware, the fabrics, and the interfacings that I recommend for your KiKi Crossbody. You can go ahead and check out that link in the description box below. So the KiKi Crossbody was basically born after the CiCi Defender. So I designed the CiCi Defender as a concealed carry bag. And I realized that not everybody was going to need a concealed carry bag or want one. So I loved the pattern so much that I knew that this had to be a regular purse version. So it does not have the concealed carry compartment on the back of the bag. It's just a basic back panel right here. So I love the way that this turned out. It is a little bit smaller than the CiCi Defender, and the zipper panel goes lower than the CiCi Defender. So those are a couple of the differences between the KiKi and the CiCi. I am considering those sister patterns, and I am offering them at a bundle discount for the first week after the patterns launch on August 1st through August 7th. So go ahead and take advantage of the bundle discount while it's there. If you decide to purchase one pattern and later to go ahead and purchase a second pattern, I will not be providing any discounts at that time. So grab that bundle while you can. So let's just go ahead and jump on in and start making up our beautiful KiKi Crossbody. All right, we're going to go ahead and discuss all of the cut pattern pieces that make up the KiKi Crossbody. I did want to point out that you can go ahead and print the Stay Organized page if you'd like, and cut out all of these little squares and attach it to your cut pattern pieces. That way you can go ahead and stay organized. Likewise, we have a pattern map in the pattern instructions that will show you how to piece together all of your pattern pieces. This is color coded. I don't have a colored printer. That's why you can't see the colors on this one. But every single grouping has a different color, so that way it also makes it easy to go ahead and figure out which pieces need to be taped together. So this is our pattern map. All right, so here I have the exterior front. Let's go ahead and go over the exterior front. The nice thing about this pattern is that I've gone ahead and made all of the pattern pieces so that you do not have to cut on the fold, and I do that pretty much with all my most recent patterns. No longer have to cut on the fold, you get full pattern pieces. Another great thing about this particular pattern is the only two items that I have that you have to cut by measurements is the crossbody strap and the binding. Everything else has a pattern piece, and any of the straight cut pattern pieces, such as like your pocket linings, you can cut by measurements on the cutting chart, or also the pattern piece itself has the measurements listed on there. So however you like to go ahead and cut out those pieces, you guys can do that. So that is why there is a lot of pattern pieces for this pattern, just because I've done all of the work for you and made it really simple. So let's go ahead and talk about the exterior front. So we have our front exterior and lining pieces. Let me show you those. So we have our front exterior right here, and that is this one full piece. Now I have gone ahead and ironed on the stabilizer on this particular one, but I do mention in the pattern to not iron your stabilizer until I direct you to do so within the pattern itself. That way you've got it centered properly or placed properly, because it might vary slightly. We'll go over how I did this one later in the video. So this is my exterior front. I am working with a faux suede vinyl right here. My lining panels, I'll show you when I get to that. So this is the front exterior panel, which is pattern piece A. Next, we have our stabilizer, which is A1, which I've already shown you right here. We have our pocket flap. So you're going to need one exterior. And I've already ironed on the stabilizer, which is pocket flap stabilizer B1. I'll show you how to do that later. I've got my lining. All of my cotton pieces have woven interfacing. This is my Sew Woven fusible interfacing I sell on my website. If you are working with vinyl, you do not need any woven interfacing unless it's a very thin vinyl and you like to add a little bit of structure to it, you can do that. All right, so moving on, we have our front exterior slip pocket. This is pattern piece D. So that is the front here with the woven interfacing on it. We have our front exterior left side piece. That is pattern piece F. We have our front exterior right side piece. That's pattern piece H. We have our exterior slip pocket lining piece, which is right here. And that is pattern piece I. My stabilizer, which is I1 right here. Right here is our exterior back. So on the exterior back, we have the back exterior left side, which is pattern piece E. We have the back exterior right side, which is pattern piece G. We have our back exterior center, and I'm trying to find, it's pattern piece C right here. And then the stabilizer for the back exterior, which we'll go ahead and iron on once we get these pieces constructed. And that is going to be stabilizer A1. Let's move on to our lining. So here is our lining panels. So we have the lining panel pattern piece A. We've got two of those with the woven interfacing on them. And then we have our interior slip and zipper pockets, which is pattern piece J. So here's one of the pockets for the slip pocket. I've got my slip pocket trim right here, which is pattern piece K. I have already added some double-sided tape. We'll go over that later. Then we have our other slip pocket, which is going to be our zipper pocket. Here we have our zipper pocket overlay, which is pattern piece L. We have our zipper for our lining zipper pocket, and I am using a number 3 zipper tape. You can use number 5 if you like. All right, next I have my gusset, which is pattern piece Q, with my gusset stabilizer, which is Q1. I do have a bottom stabilizer piece, which is Q2, and this is the Pellon Peltex. You can use Decaville Heavy as well. I was out at the moment when I cut this bag out, but I do have some more. So I think I'm going to go ahead and probably cut a piece of the Decaville Heavy for the bottom because I prefer that. Here we have our lining for our gusset. Again, that's pattern piece Q. Now we'll go ahead and go over our zipper panels. So we have our front zipper panel, which is pattern piece O. So here's my exterior, and here is my lining. So this is going to be the zipper panel that's in the front of the bag. Then you're going to have your main zipper right here, which I do recommend a number 5 zipper. This is available on our website, in addition to our zipper pulls, which are our handmade zipper pulls. Then we have our back zipper panel, which is going to be on the back side of the bag. So here's that one. And the back zipper panel is pattern piece P. And I have my zipper panel stabilizer here, which is P1. We'll go over how to specifically iron that on later in the video. And then lastly, I have the lining piece of the back zipper panel. Here is my handle, which is pattern piece M. I've already prepped it out, but I'll tell you later how I did that. And then we have our handle overlay, which is pattern piece N. Lastly, I have my crossbody strap, and that is not a pattern piece. You're going to go ahead and cut that per the measurements. Right here is the hardware that you're going to need for your KiKi Crossbody. A bag tag, which is optional. You're going to need 5 purse feet. You're going to need 2 D-rings, and these are all 1-inch hardware. You're going to need 1 to 2 strap ends, 2 snap hooks, a strap slider, 10 rivets. I do have hardware kits available in limited quantities available on the website for this particular pattern, so you guys can do that, or you can shop for any of this hardware on our website at sewists.com. Lastly, you're going to need binding for your bag. So this is a binding construction bag. So I am going to be using waterproof canvas. I've cut this to 1 inch wide. The length is going to be determined in the pattern, so you guys will know exactly how much you need to purchase. You can go with some bias tape. This is the extra wide double fold bias tape, which is a 1/2 inch wide. Or you can go with the popular favorite. This is one of our best sellers on our website, and it is our fold over elastic. We have this available in many colors, as you can see right here. This is the matte color, so you guys can go with that. We also have our shiny colors that has like a slight sheen. We are phasing these ones out since these seem to be the most popular, but you guys could go ahead and purchase the fold over elastic if you'd like. People find that this seems to be pretty easy to bind bags with the fold over elastic. Let's begin by making our crossbody strap. So what I've done right here is I've drawn a line down the center and I've applied a piece of double-sided tape along the left and the right hand sides of the line that I've drawn. I'm going to remove this double-sided tape and I'm going to fold in the long raw edges to that center line that I've drawn. Do that for both sides. Then what I'm going to go ahead and do is fold that in again on itself, and I'm going to come along and top stitch along the left and the right hand side at 1/8 of an inch. All right, I've got my strap all sewn together. Now it's time to go ahead and add all of our hardware. The supplies that you're going to need is a removable marking pen. You're going to need a screwdriver if you are adding strap ends to your strap. I am using my rivet pal, which you can go ahead and purchase on my website to help me evenly space my rivets for my strap. You're going to need your snap hooks, 2 to 4 rivets. It all depends on how many you want to go ahead and use. I already said the strap ends, and so let's go ahead and start making our strap here. All right, the first thing that I'm going to do is punch my holes for my rivets on the first end right here. And I am going to be using a strap end. So on my rivet pal right here, there is this end right here called strap end. I want to line up the short raw end of my handle here to the strap end side. And I'm going to go ahead then and use my pen to mark. On this one, I want to go ahead and do the first and the third hole because I'm planning to only put 1 rivet on this side. So the very first hole that is closest to the one that says strap end, I'm skipping the second hole and I'm marking out my third hole right here. And that is all I'm going to go ahead and do. So you can see here we've got the 2 markings for our strap end. I think I've got that slightly off-centered. I don't think I lined that up perfectly. So let me redo that. So I'm making sure that the edges of the ruler match up with the edges of the rivet pal right here, or of the strap itself. And there, I've got a little bit better centering there. I didn't do it good the first time. You are going to need a hole punch. I am using this leather hole punch, or you can go ahead and use the punch on your rivet press. I prefer this one. So I'm going to go ahead and punch out these markings. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and, oh, I forgot, I also need my strap slider. So let me grab that. So this is our wide mouth strap slider, great for the thicker vinyl straps. So I'm going to go ahead now and slide the end here around the center bar. And now I'm going to go ahead and install my strap end right here. You want to make sure that the side with the screws is going to be on the inside where you can see the bar. Okay, my strap end is installed. So the next thing that I need to do is go ahead and grab my rivet. Push it through the first hole right here. And then you can see the second hole on the opposite side. You're going to go ahead and match that up and push the rivet through to the other side. And then grab one of your rivets, and we're going to go ahead and take this over to my rivet press to set this. All right, my rivet is now set. So you can do the 1 rivet like I've done, or you can do 2 rivets. If you're doing 2 rivets, then obviously this little tail right here is going to be longer, about down to here. So you fold it over about 1.5 to 2.5 inches, up to personal preference. The strap end does have a little bit of clear plastic over it to protect it from scratching. I'm going to leave that on until I finish making my bag. If you sell your bags, you want to make sure that you leave those on and your customers can go ahead and remove them. The next thing that I want to do is I'm going to grab one of my snap hooks right here, and I'm going to go ahead to the opposite end of my strap, feed that on. So you can see right here is the inner part of the handle, and this is how the the snap hook should be. So now we're going to go ahead and take that end right here, feed it through the left side of our strap slider. And then we're going to feed it down over that center bar and out the right side. And then from here, we're going to go ahead and make our markings for our 2 rivets. I always like to use 2 rivets on this side. So I'm going to grab my rivet pal right here with the strap end side again, because I'm going to be using a strap end. To point out, if you're not familiar with the rivet pal, this is the raw end. So if I wanted to keep my strap with a raw end, then I would go ahead and match it up on this side. But I'm using a strap end, so I want to match up the strap end side. And this time I'll make sure that all my sides are nice and flush. And here we're going to do all 4 holes from that strap end side. So the first, second, third, and fourth hole right there. So these 4 holes, and it's probably hard to see right here, correspond with the strap end side. And these 4 holes correspond with the raw end side. So I've got my holes. Let's punch those out. I'm going to install my other strap end. So I've got my strap positioned like this, as I'm going to go ahead and add the strap end. Okay, the strap end is installed. Now we're going to go ahead and slide on our snap hook. Now, if your snap hook is too small for the strap end, then you're going to want to go ahead and slide the snap hook on before you do the strap end. But mine fits right over. And now we'll go ahead and install 2 rivets closest to the strap end side. Flip this over and go ahead and get those pushed through to these other 2 holes. All right, let me go ahead and set my rivets. All right, there you have it. Our strap is now complete. We've got perfectly spaced and centered rivets on our strap end using our rivet pal. So we'll go ahead and set this aside until we're finished with our bag. Okay, let's go ahead and construct our back exterior. Here I have my back exterior centerpiece, C. I have my back exterior left side, E, and my back exterior right side, G. All we need to do is go ahead and put these right sides together, matching the left and the right side right here. We're going to clip this into place, and we're going to sew this on with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and open this up, and I'm going to finger press, or if you're working with all quilting cotton, you can go ahead and press with your iron. And then we're going to come along these left side and right side pieces and top stitch at 1/8 inch seam allowance. Here is my back exterior constructed. Now we need to add our stabilizer to the wrong side of the back exterior. So grab your stabilizer, which is A1. And what I've done is I have drawn a line 1/2 inch away from the bottom straight edge right here. So just grab your ruler and use your removable marking pen to draw that line. And you want to find the center of your stabilizer, which I've done, and the center of your back exterior. So I'm going to do that right now by folding this into half. And then we're going to go ahead and just clip a little notch right here on this to identify the center. And then I'm going to place my stabilizer, matching the center and on the line right here. I'll take this over to my heat press, or you can take it over to your iron to secure this into place. All right, the stabilizer is now secured to the back exterior. Here we have our front exterior slip pocket pattern piece D. We also have our front exterior right side and left side. These are pattern pieces H as well as pattern piece F. So F is the left and H is the right. So the first thing that we want to do is we're going to go ahead and, just like we did on the back exterior, place these right sides together and sew them on with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Go ahead and turn them out and top stitch at 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, that's been constructed. So now we need to go ahead and take our stabilizer piece right here. And just as we did on the back exterior, we're going to draw a line 1/2 inch away from the bottom edge. Find the center. Find the center of your stabilizer. And I'm going to go ahead and place this so that it's centered. Take this over my press and secure it into place. That is now secured into place. I'm going to add my bag tag now. This is an optional step, so if you have a bag tag, you can go ahead and place it. The placement's going to vary, and it's also up to personal preference. I personally like this bag with the bag tag centered on this piece. However, if you like to place it anywhere different on your bag, it's completely up to you. If you are not using a turn lock on the flap, then I might recommend going ahead and placing your bag tag on the flap. That is an option for you as well. Since I'm doing both, I'm going to go ahead and place it on my slip pocket. So what you want to do, placement is going to vary depending on the size of your bag tag, but my bag tag right here, I like the placement at 1¼ inches down from the top center right here. So you just go ahead and make your marking to find your center, and then install your bag tag however you need to, whether it is a bag tag with a prong or you're just sewing it on. Go ahead and do that, but I'm going to make sure that I got mine centered right over here. So let me go ahead and get that done. There is my bag tag installed. I add some duct tape to the back side here to protect the prongs from rubbing through to the lining side. Now, if you don't have a custom bag tag, we do sell bag tags on our website. These ones say handmade, and we do offer them in multiple finishes. We currently are low in stock or out of stock in most of the finishes, but we do have these on reorder and hope to have them back in stock in the next 30 days or so. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and place these aside for the moment. Now, this step is only going to be followed if you have chosen to do magnetic snaps instead of a turn lock on your pocket flap. If you are doing the magnetic snaps, go ahead and do this. You're going to need your lining piece on your pocket flap, as well as your pattern piece B, the pocket flap. And you can see right here, I've already gone ahead and punched the holes out for the female magnetic snap placements. You're going to want to go ahead and install 2 of them, so that way the flap is going to set up properly and not flop over on itself or curl over. So we've got the 2 holes already punched, and I'm going to go ahead now and lay this on top of the right side of the lining pocket flap right here, and just take your pen and make the markings right there. From here, you can go ahead and install your magnetic snaps and move on to the next step, where we are going to do the sewing of the pocket flap itself. We are going to work on our flap right here. So you need to have your pocket flap B pieces, the exterior and the lining, and you're going to need your stabilizer. Let me show you what I did with my stabilizer. So here I went ahead and placed it 1/4 inch up from that bottom straight center right here. So that's already been ironed into place. I do have a Decaville Heavy for my flap. I do recommend using a heavyweight stabilizer for your flap, since it is standing up on its own. So you're going to want to use a Decaville Heavy. You could use 2 layers of Decaville Light, or you could also use some Pellon Peltex. So here, I've already gone ahead and took the lining and the exterior, placed those right sides together, and I've gone ahead and clipped it into place. We're going to take this over to the sewing machine now and sew along the curved edge right here at 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'll turn it right side out, and I'll top stitch along that curved edge at 1/8 inch. I do want to point out that before you go ahead and turn it right side out, go ahead and trim down your seam allowances. You can also go ahead and clip some notches here in your curves to help ease it whenever you have it turned right side out. So let me get that done. All right, now that I've got that turned right side out and top stitched, I also went ahead and base stitched along the bottom edge. And I've grabbed my pocket flap pattern piece right here, B. I'm going to go ahead and install the female turn lock on the flap here itself. Now, if you went ahead and installed the female magnetic snaps on your lining earlier, as I pointed out, then you're going to go ahead and skip this step right here. But if we are doing the turn lock, what you want to do is take your pattern piece, fold it in half, and then you're going to go ahead and find the bottom center of the raw edge here of your pocket flap and match that up with the bottom corner right here. The next thing that you want to do is get your pen, and there is a partial half X right here. All you have to do is make a dot, and that's going to tell you the placement for your turn lock. Now, your turn lock might be different than mine, so you may want to go ahead and change the placement ever so slightly. That's completely up to you. But this is where I'm going to go ahead and place my turn lock. I am going to go ahead and do this off camera, but I will be filming a separate video on this particular turn lock and this pattern right here for anybody who does want to purchase the turn locks from me and they want to know how to go ahead and install a turn lock. I'll put a link in the description box below so you guys can check that out. All right, the turn lock has now been installed on our pocket flap. And if you have the magnetic snap version, you'll have your flap with the magnetic snaps here on the back instead. We want to grab our slip pocket that we previously constructed, and we want to go ahead now and place the flap right sides together with the slip pocket right here, matching the center. I'm going to clip this into place, and I'm going to sew this on with an 1/8 of an inch base stitch, basically is what I'm doing. I'm base stitching it into place. All right, that is now base stitched on, and it is looking so cute. The next thing that we need to do is grab our slip pocket lining piece right here, place that right sides together. You're going to clip along the top edge and then sew this on with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Once you've done that, turn everything right side out, and then you are going to go ahead and top stitch here at an 1/8, or yes, at an 1/8 of an inch. All right, I went ahead and turned that right side out, and I also base stitched around this curved edge right here. So we can set this aside. We are now going to go ahead and install our male portion of our turn lock on our front exterior, which is pattern piece A. And what I have done earlier was I went ahead and drew a line 1/2 of an inch up from the bottom center like we did on the other pieces, and placed my stabilizer along that line, making sure that it was centered, and ironed that into place. Now you want to grab pattern piece A right here that has some placement guides right here. If you are doing the magnetic snaps, so the 2 magnetic snaps instead of a turn lock, then you're going to go ahead and punch the holes out that I have on the pattern piece right here, and you're going to lay this on top of your front exterior, and you're going to make markings with your pen and then install your male portion of your magnetic snaps here. But if you're doing the turn lock like I am, then what we want to do is fold this pattern piece in half. And then you're going to match up the bottom center here with the corner of your pattern piece, making sure that the top center is also matched up. Then you're going to go ahead and grab your pen, and where that little X is, the half of the X at the point, go ahead and make your marking. This is where we need to install the male portion of our turn lock. If you are using a different turn lock, then you may need to go ahead and make adjustments accordingly in order to install the male portion of your turn lock. And the way that I would recommend doing that is laying your slip pocket right here on top of the front exterior panel, clipping it into place, and then you can kind of figure out where you need to go ahead and install the turn lock. Okay, the male portion of the turn lock is now installed in the exterior panel. The next thing we want to do is go ahead and add our slip pocket to the front. We're going to clip this into place, and we are going to base stitch the pocket on at an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Okay, there is my exterior front all constructed. And to recap, we've got our exterior back constructed. So now we can go ahead and set these aside. Let's work on our interior zipper pocket now. So what you want to do is grab your lining panel, that is pattern piece A. You're also going to need your zipper pocket and your 8.5 inch zipper. Now my zipper is a little bit longer here. I'll trim that down later on. And you're also going to need your zipper pocket overlay as well, which I've got right here. And you're going to need some double-sided tape. The first thing that you want to do is you're going to clip the 8.5 inch zipper to the short end of the zipper pocket lining, and you're going to base stitch this into place with an 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. Now I'm going to go ahead and trim down my zipper even to the zipper pocket. Now you're going to bring the opposite end of the zipper pocket to meet the opposite end of the zipper tape, making sure that the zipper tape is facing in the up position just like before. Clip this into place and go ahead and sew this with an 1/8 of an inch. All right, now that I've got that sewn, this is what it looks like. I've added a piece of double-sided tape along the both edges of the zipper tape. You can see right there. The next thing that we want to do is we're going to set this aside, and we're going to work with our zipper overlay right here. I've already prepped it out by adding some double-sided tape along the wrong side. I'm going to go ahead now and grab my lining panel, and I've got my pattern piece A that we worked with earlier. This does have the markings for where we need to place the top edge of our zipper pocket overlay. You can use this, or you can just use a ruler. It is just 1.5 inches down from the top center right here. It's up to you. If you're going to use the pattern piece, then you're going to go ahead and lay it on top, matching up the edges, and then use your pen and make a dot right there where that placement should be, right there. All right, I've removed the paper backing from the double-sided tape. Now I'm going to go ahead and place this down, making sure that it's centered, and line it up on that marking I just did. I'm going to go ahead and use my ruler just to double check that I'm 1.5 inches down, because I do see that I'm a little bit crooked right here. Now take this over to your sewing machine, and you're going to sew along the outside edge at 1/8 inch. All right, that is sewn on. The next thing you want to do is you're going to use your rotary cutter to cut a line down the center, making sure not to cut the overlay itself. And we're going to flip this over, and we're going to trim away the lining fabric that is behind the zipper overlay. This does not have to look nice. We're not going to see it. So I'm going to go ahead and get this all trimmed away. There is the fabric trimmed away from behind the overlay. So now we are going to go ahead and install the zipper pocket that we prepped earlier. Start by removing the zipper tape from the top edge of the pocket. So the standard way of doing it is when the zipper pocket is closed, the zipper pull should be to the left. Now, if you are left-handed, you can go ahead and install it this way with the zipper pull to the right, completely up to you. So let's go ahead and remove the paper backing from the double-sided tape. Now we're going to place this behind the overlay window and center it just by eyeball is fine. And I want to make sure that everything's lined up evenly, which I'm going to do a little bit better off camera. And then I'm going to remove the paper backing from the opposite side and get that put into place. Okay, here it is centered in the window. I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to first start by top stitching along this straight edge right here, the top straight edge at 1/8 inch. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip my lining, my zipper pocket lining right here to the top side. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to go ahead and top stitch at 1/8 inch down this side. The reason we have to do that is if we go ahead and top stitch like this with the pocket in the down position, you're going to close your pocket up. So you want to make sure that your pocket is flipped up and out of the way. Once I do that, I will come back and show you the next step. Okay, I've got that top stitched on the top and the bottom. The next thing that we want to do is we're going to go ahead and close up the left and right hand sides of our pocket. The way that we do that is we are going to take this to the sewing machine, flip our lining out of the way, and then we're going to go ahead and sew down each of these sides and repeat for this side as well. Once I do that, I'm going to bring this over to the sewing, or I'm going to stay at the sewing machine, but I have my pocket facing in the down position, and I'm going to sew along the left and the right sides of the zipper overlay window here to close up the rectangle. Okay, we are now complete with our lining zipper pocket. Everything's been closed up. I trimmed away the excess here from the seam allowance. So now I can go ahead and set this to the side, and we're going to work on our slip pocket. So we've got our remaining lining panel A. We've got our lining slip pocket right here. And we also have our slip pocket trim. For our slip pocket trim, I drew a line down the center. I added some double-sided tape to just one of the sides of the line. You can do both if you'd like. I find that one is sufficient. Let's go ahead and build the slip pocket right now. And what we're going to do is we're going to take this, fold it right sides together, matching these short edges. I'm going to clip this into place on the sides, and then I'm going to sew this with a 1/4 inch seam allowance down both sides. Leave the top open. Our pocket is now sewn on the sides. I'm going to go ahead and trim away a little bit of the corners here so that when I turn it, I don't have that bulk in the corners. You can also trim your sides down to 1/8 inch if you'd like. Turn this right side out. Now you can take this to your iron and press it. I'm just going to finger press. Poke out those corners really well. And now I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine, and I'm going to run a base stitch along the top raw edge right here to close this up. That is now closed up. Let's grab our slip pocket trim piece, remove the paper backing from the double-sided tape. And you're going to go ahead, and I like to lay the side that has the tape to be the back, so that's going to be underneath. And I can't quite see from this direction, so I'm going to do this off camera, but I'm going to go ahead and lay this on top, matching the raw edge of the pocket to the line that I drew, and then I'm going to fold that edge over and clip it into place. Okay, you can see here that I've gone ahead and folded this over and clipped it into place, basically creating a binding on that top edge. And we're going to take this over to our sewing machine and we're going to sew down the edge right here at 1/4 inch. Now I did want to note that I did trim away just a little bit of the excess along the edges. You'll have to do that. It's about 1/4 inch or less that you trim away. The slip pocket's now been sewn. We're going to go ahead and secure it to the opposite side of our lining, so the last lining piece. We're going to place that 2 inches down from the top center, so I've got this turned at the moment. You could also use the pattern piece and select the line that is the slip pocket line right here, which says 2 inches down from the top center. And just like we did for the zipper pocket, you can make your marking either way, whatever you prefer to do. I'm going to find the center of my slip pocket just by folding it right here and making sure that I center that. And all we got to do now is take this over to our sewing machine, sew down the left, bottom, and the right sides, and then divide the pocket however you wish. You can go down the middle. You can make one a little bit larger than the other, completely up to you. There is my slip pocket sewn on, so I didn't mention it, but I sewed this on with 1/8 inch seam allowance. And whenever you're dividing the pocket, you always want to start sewing from the bottom and go up towards the open portion. That way you don't have any puckering happening. So our lining panel now is complete. So to recap again, we have sewn our front exterior, our back exterior, our lining with our zipper pocket, and our lining with our slip pocket. All right, let's go ahead and build our zipper panel. You're going to need to grab both your exterior and lining pieces of your front zipper panel, your main zipper, which is going to be a number 5 zipper, and your back zipper panel. Let's go ahead and put the lining pieces off to the side for just a moment. Okay, so the first thing that you want to do is you're going to grab your front zipper panel right here, which is the narrower one, and you're going to have your zipper with your zipper pull, or if you're using 2 pulls like me, have that already on. Go ahead and take your front zipper panel and line that up with the long edge of the zipper. Clip this into place and sew this on with 1/8 inch seam allowance. Okay, that is now sewn on. So the next thing that we want to do is we're going to grab the lining front zipper panel right here, and we're going to place that along the wrong side of the zipper tape. Clip this into place and sew this on with 1/4 inch seam allowance. All right, my lining is now sewn on. So what you want to do now is you're going to turn everything right side out and finger press, or if you're using quilting cotton, you can use your iron. And we're going to go along and we're going to top stitch along the sewn edge right here at 1/8 inch seam allowance. All right, I've got that top stitch. I also went ahead and base stitched along the outside edge right there. And now I'm going to go ahead and trim my zippers even since I didn't cut them exactly to length earlier. All right, the next step is going to be to iron your stabilizer to your back zipper panel, which I've already done. And for this, you want to go ahead and place it in a specific manner. So what I've done here is I have drawn a line 1/4 inch away from the long raw edge right here and matched up the edge of the stabilizer with that line. So that's going to leave a 1/4 inch gap right here. And I believe it's a 3/8 inch gap right there. Let me just verify. Yeah, that's a 3/8 inch gap. So that keeps it out of your seam allowance. Once you've ironed the stabilizer on, then you're going to match that side that is the 1/4 inch with the zipper side. Because the 3/8 inch side is going to be the side that you're going to be attaching to your back zipper panel, or I should say your back panel. So we're going to go ahead now and line up that 1/4 inch side right here with the zipper tape. Clip that into place, base stitch that on with 1/8 inch seam allowance, and then just like we did earlier, we're going to then attach our lining to the opposite side and sew that on with 1/4 inch seam allowance. So let me go ahead and get that done. All right, my zipper panel is now constructed. And the next thing that we want to do is we'll set this aside and we need to build our handle and our handle overlay. So here I have my handle and I've already prepped it out by drawing a line down the center and adding some double-sided tape to both sides of the line, just like we did with our crossbody strap. And what we're going to do is remove the double-sided tape, fold those long raw edges in to meet that center line, and then we're going to go ahead and top stitch at 1/4 inch seam allowance. So let me get this prepped up and I'll show you. All right, now that I've got that folded in towards the center, take this over to your sewing machine and sew down each of the sides at 1/4 of an inch. All right, my handle's now top stitched. I also went ahead and folded it in half and found my center on the wrong side right here. Now you want to grab your handle overlay. I've already done some prep work right here. What I've gone ahead and done is I've drawn a line 3/4 of an inch away from one of the long edges right here. I also went ahead and measured in 1 inch from each of the short raw edges and drew a line here along the short edge. I applied some double-sided tape along both sides of the 1 inch line that I drew. I also added some double-sided tape to this end right here. Go ahead and fold in the raw edge to meet that 1 inch line drawn to create a 1/2 of an inch fold. All right, the next thing that we want to do is remove the paper backing from this edge right here, and we are also going to add some double-sided tape to the right side of our handle. So I'm just going to go ahead and flip this over, and I've got it centered here on the handle so I know how long I need to make my double-sided tape. So go ahead and add some double-sided tape just to where the handle overlay is going to be on top of the handle, like that. Remove the paper backing. All right, the paper backing has been removed from the double-sided tape. We're going to flip this so that we have wrong side up on the handle and wrong side up on the handle overlay. I've got my center marking here on my overlay and my center marking on my handle right here. We're going to make this edge match up with this line right here, making sure that everything's centered. I'm going to pull this closer to me so I can see what I'm doing. All right, go ahead and press that. And then flip over this edge right here where the double-sided tape is on. And use some clips along these edges right here to help keep it down. Now we want to apply some double-sided tape along this edge right here. And then flip this edge over around the handle. I'm going to remove the clips. Now I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch all around the outside edge at 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, that has now been top stitched around the outside edge at 1/8 of an inch. The next thing we want to do is we're going to run 2 parallel lines of stitching right here at 1/4 of an inch away from each of these folded sides. All right, our handle has now been constructed. All right, the next step is that we need to make some markings on our handle, which I've already done right here. So what you want to do is you're going to measure in 3.5 inches from this short raw edge right here and make a marking in the center of your handle. Then you're going to make a marking 1 inch away from there, which is 4.5 inches, and then another inch away, which is 5.5 inches. So to recap, 3.5, 4.5, and 5.5. Do the same thing for the opposite end. This is going to tell us where we need to go ahead and do some of our sewing. You're going to need your D-rings in just a moment. We are going to place our handle on top of the back zipper panel that we constructed. And we want to go ahead and place it so that it is 1/4 of an inch away from this folded sewn edge right here. I like to just eyeball it. As long as I can see the stitching and then I have a little bit more room in between there, it is sufficient. We're going to go ahead and clip this into place. Do this for the opposite side. And then our handle is going to bump out to give us room for our hand. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to clip in this direction. Now, if you prefer to add some double-sided tape along the back sides, you can do that too. But I'm making sure that it looks pretty even straight across here. And then if I just add a clip, it kind of keeps it into place for me. If you don't have these quilting clips, then I do recommend going ahead and getting some double-sided tape to secure this into place. So the first step that you want to do is we're going to come in and we are going to sew along this 5.5 inch marking down along the side of the handle here at 1/8 of an inch. back over on the 4.5-inch mark, 1/8 of an inch away from the handle, to make a box right here. So that's the first line of stitching that we're going to do. Do that for both sides. All right, the first set of boxes have been sewn right here. Now it is time to add our D-rings. So you want to go ahead and unclip this to slide your D-ring on. And you're going to slide it all the way up to that a line of stitching right here that was the 4.5-inch mark. Reclip this into place. And do the same thing for the opposite side. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and sew along the edge of the handle right here at 1/8 of an inch. We're going to come in on that 3.5-inch marking and back down at 1/8 of an inch along the handle. And then we can also close this off and do the raw edge right here and repeat for the opposite side. We've now gone ahead and secured our handle to our zipper panel, and this is what it looks like. The next thing that we can do, which is optional, is add some rivets. I like to add a rivet in this box right here, right in the center. Then I like to add 2 rivets over here on the opposite side that I've drawn. Completely up to you what you want to do, and you'll repeat for the opposite side. And then a little tip, if you have a rivet pal, you can go ahead and line up the raw end of the rivet pal with this line of stitching right here and match up those edges here. And then just use the first 2 holes to mark your placement for your rivets along this section right here, and do that for the opposite side. That's going to allow you to have evenly spaced rivets. Okay, our zipper panel is now complete. Okay, let's work on our gusset. I've got my exterior gusset right here, and I've already ironed on the stabilizer to the wrong side. And the way that you want to do that is you're going to go ahead and draw a line 1/2 of an inch away from this center raw edge right here and place your stabilizer down. Now you can see mine's not centered. For some reason I didn't draw my line, so do as I say, don't do as I do, because this is a little bit askew here, and I just don't want to waste the fabric, so I'm just going to go with it. Next thing you want to do, and you can kind of see that I've already done this, I clip notches in the short and the long raw edges to find my centers, and I decided to go ahead and draw a little marking so I know exactly where my center is. Then grab your bottom stabilizer piece like I have right here. I've already found my short and long centers right here by clipping some notches, and now I'm going to go ahead and get this placed evenly on the center of the gusset. You will notice that it is about, I'd say, 1/4 of an inch or so shorter on these sides right here. Once you've got that placed right in the middle, take this over to your iron or your heat press and secure it into place. Okay, now that that's secured into place, grab your Q2 pattern piece. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and punch out the holes for your purse feet placement. Line this up with the bottom stabilizer piece and use your pen to transfer the markings for where your purse feet are going to be. If you're not doing purse feet, you can skip this step right here. Now let's punch the holes for our purse feet and install those. Okay, my gusset's now prepped. The next step is to grab your previously constructed zipper panel. Place that right sides together with the gusset matching the short raw edges right here. And you'll see here that my lining isn't quite to the edge like it should be, but with the 3/8 of an inch seam allowance that we're ultimately going to do, that should catch all of that and not be seen. So let's go ahead and sew this on with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance along this edge right here. All right, now that that is sewn into place, the next thing we want to do is we're going to grab our lining gusset right here, place that right sides together with the lining side of the zipper panel, clip that into place just like we did a minute ago, and sew this with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. All right, that is now sewn into place, and I was successfully able to catch all of the pieces of the zipper panel here, so there's no raw seams showing. Now it is time for us to go ahead and trim down our seam allowance here to about 1/8 of an inch. Turn everything right side out. and press your seams away from each other and top stitch here at 1/4 inch. Okay, now that that is top stitched, it's time to repeat the same process to attach the opposite end of the gusset to the zipper panel. So right sides together, clip this into place, and sew with this with 1/4 inch. Next, you want to bring the lining right sides together with the zipper panel here, and clip and sew this with a 3/8 of an inch. Trim down your seam, turn right side out, and then top stitch here at 1/4 inch. And then you're going to go ahead and base stitch your gusset exterior and gusset linings together along both raw edges right here. My zipper panel and gusset has now been constructed. The next thing that we need to do is start sewing everything together. So what I've done right here is I have taken my front exterior panel and my lining panel with my slip pockets and placed those wrong sides together. I'm going to go ahead and base stitch these in place with 1/8 of an inch seam allowance. I've also placed my back exterior, wrong sides together, with my lining panel with the zipper pocket, and I'm going to go ahead and base stitch this into place with 1/8 of an inch. All right, we are going to begin by attaching our front exterior to our zipper panel. It's important that we are matching the front zipper panel right here with the front exterior. So let's turn this wrong side out. Here is my front zipper panel, which is the narrower one. We are going to find the center of our zipper panel, which I have not done just yet. So let's go ahead and match up our side seams. Clip a notch and repeat for the opposite side, and we'll do that for the bottom as well. Okay, so take that top center of your zipper panel, the narrower one, and what we want to do too is we want to flip our pocket flap here down. You can use some clips to clip it into place so that way it stays out of your way whenever you are sewing. You can also open your zipper to make it easier for you when you're attaching everything and sewing it into place. So I'm going to go around and start clipping this into place. Once I've got that top edge done, I move to the bottom edge, matching up the centers. And now I'm just going to continue clipping around the left and the right sides. All right, I've got that all clipped into place. And if you need to, you can cut a couple of notches around your curves to ease that around the curves. This is going to depend on the fabrics that you've used for your bags as well as the interfacings. Mine fit perfectly, so I did not need to make any clips in the gusset itself. And when I mean clips in the gusset, so say this is the side that I'm attaching in a moment, you would go ahead and make little clips here to help ease it around the corners. Making sure that you're only clipping in about 1/4 inch. You don't want to go in as far as the seam allowance. So let's go ahead now and take this over to our sewing machine. And I like to start sewing at the bottom center around the sides and the top back to the center here. And I am going to sew this on with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance. right, she's all sewn together. Let's go ahead and take a look here. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this right side out and check my seams to make sure that there's no puckering, and that I'm satisfied with how it looks before moving on to the binding. All right, there she is. I am so happy with the results thus far. No puckering in the side seams there, so I'm very happy with that. So I'm going to turn this wrong side out again, and then we're going to move on to binding the bag. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I've chosen to do 1 inch wide waterproof canvas for my binding, but you can use the 1/2 inch wide double fold bias tape that you purchase at the store, or you can go with fold over elastic, which I do sell on my website. So all we got to do here for the waterproof canvas is I like to crease it by hand, and then I simply go ahead and take it around the raw edges, clipping it into place and just doing that around the entire perimeter of the bag. Once you've got your binding clipped into place, go ahead and sew around the outside of the bag with 1/4 inch seam allowance. You do want to try to match your thread with your binding color so that you don't see it. I wasn't able to do that because I didn't have any gold colored thread, so I went with a beige color and it looked just fine. Now all we have to do is repeat the same process to attach the back panel to the gusset. So I'm going to begin by clipping the top center together, the bottom center, continue around the sides. I'll go ahead and sew that with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then I will do my binding. So I'll do the same exact process. Okay, we've completed the binding on both sides of our bag. Now it's time for us to go ahead and turn it right side out, which I'm going to do off camera because this is a little bit tricky to do trying to lean over. So let me get that turned right side out and show you what she looks like. And here is my KiKi Crossbody all finished. Got the crossbody strap attached. Here's a look inside. And I did make a matching fold and go wallet, which is another pattern that's available on my website. So there's my fold and go wallet. Fits perfectly inside of the KiKi. And then another free pattern that's available that's not mine is the Harlequin pouch. So I went ahead and made that as well to match. So I have got a nice matching set right there. So I hope you liked the video. I will go ahead and show you what she looks like wearing her crossbody in just a moment. All right, guys, here is my beautiful KiKi Crossbody. I love how she turned out. She is absolutely beautiful. I can't wait to see your KiKi Crossbody. Please go ahead and share those in the Facebook group. If you're not on Facebook, go ahead and email me photos at contact@sewyours. I would love to see your beautiful bags that you make. Now that I've sewn mine, it's time to sew yours.